The great man, I am that. And we know that in our language because that's the air, the carpet, that's the tree, that's the flower. We know already that everything is that, but we put labels or words on it, names on it, which discriminate it. So when they also point out that it's Satchitananda Nama Rupa in Hinduism, the 5 factors, one essence expressing in terms, and again we know it's all that which we've discriminated again. That's it. So that's what needs to happen. We're not this person which we've taken ourselves to be. We are that one essence, though it's seemingly a different, taken a different pattern, different shape and form to everything else. It's still only the one essence. It's all taking place in that basic screen of silence, emptiness or stillness. It's all appearances in that screen. So it's all subtle vibrations which are expressing into all these different pattern shapes and forms. We've taken on we've learnt words because there's no word you're ever born with. If you go back and investigate that and see that, every word you've ever spoken has been learnt or acquired, picked up along the way. And when you look into the word and investigate it, you'll see the word's not really the thing. Just take the label we put on the liquid water. And we know the word water is not the water. The word fire is not the fire. Maybe the word I or me is not what you are either. That's the personal or label words. And that's the basic words we learn. The sense of presence, which translates into the thought I am. And our parents taught us these words. When you're a little child, go back when you were born, you can't remember your birth. It's purely and simply because you didn't have any words. And you don't remember the first couple of years of your life before you had words. It's only when you learnt words and the capacity of reasoning developed after you learnt those words, and we take the word to be the thing or the real, and that's when all our problems start. There's a basic knowing that all these words, thoughts, feelings and emotions appear in. Knowing is another label for intelligence. Intelligence, when you break it down, is nothing but a vibrating pattern of energy. So that's what I call this mind, or essence, intelligence energy, the activity of knowing. Not your intellects, not your personal beliefs, but the activity of knowing which is going on in each and every one of you right now at this moment. There's hearing happening where you are, seeing, tasting, touching, smelling, and it's all knowing. So that's all this intelligence energy is when it's broken down, the activity of knowing. And you're knowing this, that, or everything else, which we put labels on. And that's when we were discriminating them, when we're taking them to believe the labels we put on them are what they are. Instead of seeing them, they are that one essence the same as you. Are you the body? Are you the mind? Innately you know you're not the body and the mind because you're saying my body. my mind. Who's saying my body, my mind? Is it the body? Is it the mind that's saying that? Or is the thing that's being used to express through, the thing we call mind, is what it's expressing through? Would you say my house, my car, my coat? You know, you're not the house, car, coat, or any of those labels. Maybe you're not the mind either. And you say my body, innately you know you're not the body, but the body is the instrument through which the power is expressing. And that instrument is made up of that one power, the omnipotence, the total power, not mind power, not thought power, not personal power. It's the one power. And so you're not separate from it at all. And that's what functioning in this manifestation you call the body. It's breathing, heart beating, hair and fingernails going, growing, food being digested, cells being replaced. And it's all suffused with that innate intelligence, energy that enable it to fatten, shape and form the way it does. Made up of millions of cells, trillions of cells actually, each cell suffused with that intelligence, and each cell in your body suffused with that intelligence knows what to do. A heart cell's not a lung cell, a lung cell's not a liver cell or a kidney cell or a skin cell. Each cell knows what to do innately. It goes through the nervous system and so-called the brain, and sort of we take the brain to be some great power. It's not, but it's just another organ through which the life essence is functioning and enables it to be translated into different patterns, shapes and forms with the capacity of reasoning. And that's a very useful capacity. But being a pattern of energy, it always vibrates dualistically. Have a look at your mind and see the way you think. How do you think? And you look at it and you see, I think in the vibrating energy, I think dualistically. It's either past or future, pleasant or painful, happy, sad, loving, hating, positive, negativity. Watch your mind and see if it functions any other way. So it's always functioning dualistically. And the only idea of separation that comes about with that functioning is the belief that it's separate. The good and the bad think they're different. There's not realising that there's one essence patterning in the shape and form of everything, appearing to be different, appearing to be separate, but they're not separate. So you're looking to become whole and complete when the so-called spiritual search starts. Now let's see that word spirit. What's the opposite of spirit? Isn't it matter? Essence, subtle essence or energy, and matter, seemingly solid. But we've divided them up and think we've got to become spiritual. But if it's one essence, must recognise and realise you're always already and are already that spirit. And look how it functions in nature. The essence cools and forms a cloud. The water evaporates and forms a cloud, which cools and comes down as ice. It comes down as rain, liquid, which can turn into ice. But it becomes matter. So you see the same thing happening in this body. The thought, initially there's thoughts there. Vibrating energy vibrates into sound, which becomes words or thoughts. Then it becomes a bit more solid and becomes feeling. sensation, feeling or emotion. And then the emotion, when it becomes anger and expresses as anger, fear, depression or guilt or all the rest of it, it's seemingly more solid again. It's the same as steam, water and ice become more solid. So it all can be broken down. This body can be broken down into energy. The heart, the breathing, and everything else can be broken down into energy. Look out there in nature and see it's the same thing. All the manifestation is constantly transient, constantly changing, coming into seeming something solid, like the sap in the tree, runs around, goes through the tree and forms the leaves, the flowers, and the fruit and the seeds. And the seeds coming down, becoming more solid, go into the earth. And again, the heat of the sun, the radiance of the sun, and water, and the earth, enable that intelligence in that seed to sprout, to grow, and form a tree or a flower or whatever. But everything is that one essence. And the problem comes about because we believe we've separated and taken it all to belief in these separate entities, individuals, persons. And we put concepts or labels on them. Words we've learnt, we put labels. I am this persona, I am this person, which comes from persona, the mask, I am this mask. A conceptual image made up of thoughts. What's a concept? Look at your dictionary definition of concept and see it's nothing but a mental construct. Something that's coming through this thing called mind and coming out and energy going into it and makes it seemingly solid. But show me a word. You can show me the printed form of a word, but show me an actual word. What substance has it got? Can you pick up the word and bounce it around and grab it or twist it, turn it? You can't. Is the word fear? Is anything to fear in that word when you can't grab it at all? Or anger, or unhappiness, or depression? All these labels we put upon ourselves, words. And yet the word's not the thing. But the emotion or the sensation that comes up, we label the sensation. This one is fear. When we've had it the first time, we learned words from our parents, and you didn't know anything about anger or fear when you were a little baby until you learnt words, or depression, or guilt, or remorse. But these sensations came and were fixated on motion, and we labelled them. And the words or the sensation becomes something seemingly real to us. But what can you do with the word anger? Can you grab the word? Well, that sensation comes up. What can you do with it? You can't do anything with the anger itself. But it expresses through the body, and and want to punch somebody or jam on somebody, or the words that come out can code on a different tone and abusive things you wouldn't normally say come about, all through the belief in the word. So you see, we're bound into the concepts of words, of language. And that's the limitations we put upon ourselves. This persona, the mask, and that's where the persona comes from, the mask of concepts or words. And we've limited ourselves and tied ourselves up in the cage of concepts. We've bound ourselves in the cage of concepts. Do you need to do that? Well, when you understand what it is, and what happens, you can only take on the word when somebody calls you such and such and you don't like it. You've taken on that word and put the energy of belief into it. And because you can't do much about it, it comes out in these emotions. Now, emotions can be all right. They might get you out of a lot of trouble, some of them. But when we fixate on them and keep them there, that causes all our psychological problems. The fear, the anger, the depression, the guilt, they all become overwhelming. And the happiness and joy and love are obscured. They're obscured for a moment, but then when they come up, we immediately go back into the concepts again and they get obscured again. And we're more in the conceptual imaging than what we are with the natural state. Now look at that natural state, right with you right now. Aren't you all breathing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling? All happening naturally, and what we call thinking comes up. Now with thinking, what do you got to do? You relate it. You relate it to a past event, sensation, which is no longer there, but you're relating to it and bring it back into the foreground again and add it onto yourself. Oh, I'm fearful, or I'm angry, or I'm not unhappy, or I'm unhappy, I should say. I'm depressed. We're relating to all these mental concepts, which are dead. They're dead because they're all past events. They're not happening right now, but as soon as you bring them up again, we've regurgitated them, brought them into the moment again, living them. And there's a saying, you know, a dog will always return to his vomit. And it's a fact. You watch a dog, he'll eat something that doesn't agree with him. He'll bring it up, 5 minutes later we're back licking it up again. And we got all these concepts, you know, all dead, and we go back and bringing them up again and get stuck into them. You've got to continue to do that. Nothing's going to stop you except recognising, recognising. That means cognising, which is another term for knowing it again. Recognise it, see the truth of it again and again. And the scriptural saying is, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. You're free of all these conditioned responses, conditioned activities. Instead of seeing them fresh and new, we're continually relating to the old, the dead. And get a bucket of water out of the river. That becomes dead also. It becomes stagnant. No longer any life into it. It's not moving anymore. It's still appearing as water, but it's dead. What's happened to the river you pulled it out of? It's flowing merrily along. It gets into a flat, even place. It might be hardly moving. It'll be nice, peaceful, and then get to a rapids. It'll be racing down those rapids and passing sandy banks and big cliffs around it and forests and everything like that. Till it gets into the ocean. Merges back into the ocean, where try and separate that river from the ocean, the water in it. Now it's gone back to it. Try and, what we're doing, we think we're doing, we're regurgitating these old thoughts and bring them to life again. But where are yesterday's thoughts now if you don't bring it up? It's dead, it's gone, and it's still dead and gone unless you recall it. When you recall it, what do you do with it? Put the life energy into it to make it seemingly real again. And that's what we call time. You go into the concept of time, which is past, present, future. All different ideas or concepts of time. And have a look at that. We've taken that as a given because our parents told us about time and we constantly believed it ourselves, and we believe there is such a thing as time now. But ask yourself this, is there a past if I don't think about it? If I don't bring it up again, yesterday, last week or last year, where is it? If it's not, it's gone and it's finished. And we can go back and bring it up right back as far back as we can remember. But is it real? Or is it like the dream you might have had last night or last week? Real while you were seemingly in it, but when you woke up and stepped out of it, you see there was nothing there at all. And how long did you remember the dream you had last night for? When you know it's not real. You have a nightmare, it might keep coming up and giving you a bad feeling. Or it might be another sort of a dream, it was very good, you might want to recall it. But it's not the actual, is it? It's all imagined, all imaged in your mind. So this living dream is the same. The actuality of it is right in this moment. And you see that. You're seeing right now, you're hearing right now, you're tasting right now, touching, smelling right now. And are you noticing the right now? Or is it much easier to go back into yesterday or a minute ago? Or what you're going to do tomorrow? And when you're going to leave here, stop listening to this idiot carrying on. I got my own concepts, I'll keep them instead. It is an idiocy when the way we carry on, isn't it? So we've got all this psychological suffering. I'm fearful, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, I'm unhappy. And keep reinforcing it. We keep trying to get out of it, and not realising by trying to get out of it, we're using the very same instrument which we're trying to get rid of, to try and get rid of it with. And you think you can ever get rid of a thought with a thought? And you know the actuality of that because you've been trying for years. And it doesn't work, does it? So,
maybe in future.
yeah.
In future.
It was me when I was on the grog and get over and have a hell of a hangover. If I come out, I'll give it a hell of a hide next time. But next time it'd win. Always did. And the only way out of it was to leave it alone. Do the same thing with your thoughts. Leave them alone. Let them be. Don't fixate. The great perfection is non-conceptual, unfixated presence awareness. Not fixating on any thought. If you're not fixating on it, that's what's letting thought be free. Not trying to rid yourself of all thoughts, because that'll never happen either. Whatever you're embodied, you're going to think. Unless you get Alzheimer's or some brain damage or something like that, when you no longer can capacity reasoning, but thinking will always come up. And it'll always come up the way it's always come up, in the pairs of opposites. So when the energy of belief doesn't go into it, that see that the thought's not the thing or not the real, what's it going to do? It's going to do like what every other thought is doing. It's going to move on. Have a look inside the skull of yours and see how many thoughts are stitched in the head there. How many are glued there? And you have a look and try and see what's there. You can't say there's anything at all there unless you're bringing a thought up to try and translate it. What's wrong with right now if you pause the thought and ask yourself what's wrong with that right now without a thought? You'll see there's no thought there. But you can't pause thoughts, they'll spontaneously come up. But you can look beyond them and look through it. So when they say thought free, it's not trying to throw every thought out or stop them from coming in. It's just letting them be free. Knowing full well that every thought you've ever had have moved on of their own accord. And some you've tried to fixate on or do fixate on and keep regurgitate them or bringing them up will seemingly last. But every thought is fresh in you. If you We call it, I call it the one-ended stick. There's no two ends, there's no one end to any stick. It's always got two ends. So when the good's coming up, we want the good end of the stick. We don't want the bad. Or when there's a good, we always want the good. We don't want the bad. But leave it as it is. When the bad comes up, that's it too. It's still the same stick. It's still the same energy flowing, and it's going to pass also. And when you know that, are you going to put the degree of belief into it as you had before? You know? And after a while, when you realise this is going on, you're not even going to bother with them. What are you going to take offence at somebody for when you know it's not going to last? You know what they think of you, what they don't think about you. It might seemingly hurt for a while, but what's hurt? Is the body actually hurt? Or is the mind hurt? Or is the feeling we've put into it? Fear, oh, they've done this to me, and I feel unhappy about it, or I'm depressed. That's caused the guilt. It's caused the feeling or the sensation in the body to become seemingly real. But it's still only a sensation with no substance to it or no independent nature. So thought-free. Doesn't matter have to stop all thoughts, but let the thoughts be free. As they say in this, a lot of the text will tell you, let the thought ride out on the breath. It's not stitched in your head or in your brain or anywhere else. But breathe her out, just like you leave that breath go out. You leave that breath go out. Do you think you're ever going to get the same breath in again? You can't. It's completely gone out and merged into the air. You might get, if you're breathing in your own air, you might get particles of it in again. But you'll never get the same air again. Just the same as and you go into the ocean, you'll never get the same drop of water that merged into the ocean again. Never. But we believe we do, bringing up the same thoughts and regurgitating them, carrying them around. That's where let the thought ride out on the breath, and the next thought you'll see as fresh and new. And it might be a similar thought. It might have the same, you might put the same concepts on it, but it's still fresh and new, not the same old one. So what I've been carrying around with me for months, years maybe, or weeks or whatever it is, let it go. It's not going to come again. No, it will be a fresh and new thought. It might be a thought at the other end of the cage, at the so-called bad end. But you know it's going to be like all the previous thoughts I've had. It's going to change. Now go back again to the time you first remember that reasoning started, and you'll realise there's something there, seemingly something there, that hasn't changed. But it's seen and witnessed and aware of all the changes that are going on constantly. Like Walt Whitman says, far down I see the first huge nothing. I know I was even there. You can go back to prior to words when you don't remember what was going on. You know there was something there. And that knowing is the basic intelligence, energy, the life. That's the same life. Like the thoughts are merged into the ocean, and all the words, thoughts and forms are formed back into that innate intelligence energy, and even the water of the ocean will eventually go back into it. So you are that one essence that's vibrating and continuing to vibrate into different patterns, shapes and forms. But you're still only that. And that has never been contaminated or corrupted by any thought, feeling or emotion, or in all the wars and bing bangs and loud noises that have gone on in it have never touched it. Never can touch it. So the pattern, shapes and forms that seemingly express from that through the vibration, like you stir water up, it'll start spinning. You put the spoon in it and stir the teacup up, it'll start spinning. seeming somewhat of a movement in it. But it'll stop if it's not continued to be stirred. They have the name of it in this language, they call it shit stirrer. And that's what we do. Continue to do it if you want to. But as they say, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Well, there's a light of knowing that's basically beyond all this. And that's what Christ told you. I am the way, I am the truth, I am the light. And he said, let your light so shine before men, they will see your good works. Because when you shine, that light is shining, that light of intelligence, that's when the so-called good works will express and pattern. He's not saying make it happen. He's saying allow, let it. And that's what we need to do. Let it happen. The old saying is let it be. And in its beingness is not becoming, not will be. It's just pure being right here, right now. And can any one of you negate or deny your beingness? Which translates through the mind as the thought I am. I am being, I am knowing, I am not unaware, I am aware. I am seeing, I am hearing, I am tasting, I am touching, I am smelling. All related to that conceptual image, I am. And you take that image away, what are you without that image? What is that beingness? Isn't it life itself, being, expressing, patterning, shaping and forming in all its diversity? And you are that life. You're not the person, you're not the thought, you're not the feeling, you are not the emotion, you are life itself that's formed that pattern to live and express through. And it's constantly changing that pattern, which is changing right now. But what's that life? Is that changing? No, the patterns, functions, and forms that come from it. It's already, always, and ever been life itself. And as Nisargadatta says, life lives on life. And we do that. The plants, the food we eat is life. The breath we take is life is in the breath. And life lives on life, and out of life, more life comes. So there's nothing ever lost. Nothing ever added to it. Nothing ever taken away from it. But in the dream-like patterning, shaping and forming that's going on, and this is a waking dream, it's seeming that life is all sorts of things are happening to it. Just like they did in your sleeping dream, and all sorts of things happened. When you woke up, what happened to that sleeping dream? Didn't it all disappear? And after a week or so, you don't remember any of it. What was the dream you had 20 years ago? Recall a part of it if you can. You can't. What were you doing 20 years ago? It's hard enough to call this waking dream. What you were doing 20 years ago, you won't get that in a dream. So it's all transient, it's all change. And that's why they tell you, you'll never ever get peace of mind. And we look for the mind for the answer. We think, well, the mind will get peace. But the ancients tell you you'll never get peace of mind because they call it the peace that passes all understanding. Where are things understood? In the mind. That's where the understanding goes on. So if you want the peace that passes all understanding, you're going to look in the mind for it? It's stupid to do that, wouldn't it? Well, that's what we've been doing for years and years and years. We think we'll find the answer in the next concept. But you won't. The peace is when the mind is not. That's why they call it the peace that passes all understanding. And when there's a deep sleep and not even the dreams are occurring, isn't there? You can't say anything about it. When you wake up, you'll say, I slept well, because there was nothing going on. There was peace there. Now, we've looked for many years and done all sorts of satsangs, mantras, and read these books and done that. which we think we're going to find the answer. And if you followed some of them, which are really good, and they pointed to the answer, well, I tell you, the answer's not in the mind. It's not this ego that's going to get anything. It's the ego that's the problem. You'd see what they're saying too, but we don't. We think we're going to find the answer in the next section. And the physicists and scientists are still dividing it, putting on new terms on it. And the psychologists and everybody else are putting new terms on it. And the so-called advaitins are putting new terms on it. Leave it in its simplicity. In its simplicity. You are that. You've already been that. You always never will be that. So you looked in the mind all this time and never found the answer. Wouldn't it dawn on you? Maybe I've been dawn on you. Maybe I've been looking in the wrong direction. Because I'm an intelligent being. Intelligence. I've learnt this and learnt that. I've never found the answer to life. Maybe I've been looking in the wrong direction. And then when you know, well, what way can I look? If I'm looking in the wrong direction, what direction is there need to look at? And you realise I've been looking in the mind all this time. Now when you look at that, is there any way out of the mind? Looked in the mind for the answer, never found the answer. Maybe the answer's not there. And realise that every direction you've looked in has always been in the mind. And the only way out of the mind is full stop. Pause the thought. Don't go there. Do whatever you can to see beyond that thought, see through the thought. And what can you say without a thought? Not a damn thing. Can't say a thing. Now, you can't say a thing, and there's that, what you call it, gap there. What must arise then? Wouldn't it be a natural sense of well-being? Being well, if you like to put that term on it, or well-being, you can't even put that. A sense, well, you've had taste of it when the mind's been in abeyance for a little while. There is a sense of well-being there, a sense of subtle joyousness, a love of life, a love of being. And that's when you translate the Satchita, the answer is what it is. It's being, knowing and loving to be. That loving to be can't arise when it's getting obscured with concepts and ideas and images. Leave it as it is and naturally it'll come about. And that's what's happened there. And you can still go up and indulge in it if you want to. You can go into all sorts of concepts like hates and fears and anxiousness and all sorts of imaginings, imaging in. But you see the futility of it, why are you going to bother? Wouldn't it be just natural to set at ease, be at ease? And that's another term they put on it, the ease of being, or being at ease. And that old song, you know, Porgy and Bess, summertime and living is easy. It's easy. Let it be. Let it be easy. How could he say that if they hadn't learnt that, understood it? So people know where it is and what it is. Everybody can. So that's about it, basically all I've got to say, I think, for a while anyway. You can argue over that and add to it, put a few concepts on it though. But away you go.
Go on.
Oh, that's enough. You have a go.
No, you have a go.
Got any questions or arguments, or tell us how you're going with it? You've all been here a while, you want a taste of it. You must have a sense that there's, and if you hadn't realised or recognised, we think there's more to get. We're looking at the wrong direction. There's more to get. There's more to get rid of.
I'll have to have a think about that.
Go to the top of the class. As the Sargadata says, the more we talk and think about it, the further away we wander from the truth. Stop talking and thinking, and there's nothing you'll not be able to know. The knowing, or what's necessary to know, comes up spontaneously. And it'll come up in thoughts and words, which can be utilised. But up until we get that point, they're using the thought, the words are using us. It's a thought that tells me I'm not good enough, or I'm fearful, or I'm anxious, or I'm unhappy, or I'm depressed. And I shouldn't do this, and I won't do that, and blah, blah, blah. They're using it, this conceptual image. It's there to be utilised, and it can be, so do it.
Well, for me, that was beautiful, Bob. That was so, wow, amazing. Where you sort of talks about Christ, like let the light happen, not make it happen, like let the light shine. And it's probably a recurring sort of thought that comes up. Like it feels like there's a frustration at times that light's not being let to shine, or something. There's like a conflict with it, or not an allowing of it, or I don't know. It's like you see all this. There's this infinite potential, but it's not being allowed to happen.
Exactly.
And what's that? Just another letting go, or
What's blocking?
well, it's just a thought, and it feels like a frustration that it's not being fulfilled, or something.
Well, that's what it's done. It's brought the frustration up there.
Sorry.
It's brought the frustration up. The thinking that you've got to do something. Let that go too.
Right. It's just another overlay.
So whatever it comes up, just let it be or react. Just drop it.
Yeah. Sometimes it hurts. It's like it wants to do all this stuff, but it's not. It feels like it's being fulfilled. Or
Yeah. There seem to be forms of solid sensation in your body somewhere, or not in the guts, or an ache in the heart, or a lump in the throat, or something like that.
Yeah.
But when you look into that and see that, can you pinpoint that? You can't, because it's mental.
It's all mental.
And you can't pinpoint it when you look at it. Where you look at it, go back to see where you're looking at it from. If you're looking at something inside the body, you must be looking at it from somewhere else. If you are it, you're totally with it. You're not looking at it from somewhere. You're right with it. With this frustration, you feel the frustration where you're actually feeling it from somewhere else. Isn't it? Have a look to see where that is. And see if you can find a solid point anywhere in that body. You can't. You finish up, you'll think you're looking at it from out here somewhere. Well, maybe you are. But it's not in the body. It must disperse.
I'm a bit tired looking at dogs vomit.
Looking at dogs vomit. Yeah, but if you look at it without judgment, like we had a little bit of a party over the weekend, and a friend who was here, she was talking about the family dynamics that are quite rough, like, they're always dynamics, they're always thoughts, they're always patterns that can trigger something. They can trigger anger, irritability, shame, guilt, whatever. But once you actually leave it as it is and you see it, the whole picture, the whole scenery, the depth of emotion, the depth of frustration or irritation or whatever, and the story that is behind it, that, oh, I don't want it to be, I want the light to shine. The longing of the heart for that beautiful light to shine. If that whole landscape is really seen in a way that it is impersonal, that is just so deep and so colorful, it literally blows your mind. You don't want it to go, including the negative emotions coming through, including the blockage, including the longing for the shine. It just becomes, wow. And this is the place where you completely disassociated, not in a way disassociated because this is all you as life essence expressing as those different patterns. but there is no judgment attached, there is no preference attached, there is no concept that it should be any different, or that this light should shine in any other way, because irritability or frustration or procrastination is also the form in which that life expresses. But then the mind comes and labels it. I don't want this, I want something else. This is good, this is bad. And this is where the suffering comes about. Because when the whole thing is viewed, like Bob said, leave it as it is. Just see it for what it is. Leave the thought alone. The thought is not going to hang on for very long, because it needs to be regurgitated. It needs fixation. It needs attention. It needs constant renewing. So those clouds will pass. The dark clouds on the sky, if they are not held there by force, they will pass. And irritability can be interesting. It can be like, yeah, well, we do have it, both of us, occasionally. The pain may cause it, the weather may cause it, the arthritis, the period, whatever. It may cause certain energies moving in the body. And even if the label comes up that, oh yeah, I'm a bit irritable, be patient today. It may come from Bob, or it may come from me. But then instantaneously, even if the label came up and the recognition of that dynamic comes, there is a curiosity about the dynamic itself. And there is no resistance towards it. There is no preference for this feeling not to be there. So if it is there, it is interesting. It is like, one could say, God's will for that vibration to be here right now. And you respect it, you accept it, you allow it.
It must be God who has left the blame.
Yeah, if you want to call it God. I don't like that label, but yeah, but it kind of brings that idea of grace again. That idea of there is something higher or bigger or greater, like, you know, this is a part, so called, that's how it is perceived, and this is the wholeness. And of course the wholeness reflects all the parts, because it isn't a part really, it's holographic, so that every element contains the whole lot. But yeah, it's actually beautiful when we look at that longing for that light to shine and we see the obstacles, because that brings up that love for being, that love for that infinite intelligence, and warning that is actually a love translated as the desire. But to recognize that it is already here, even if it shows up as anger, it is already that. It's always already that. That anger doesn't hurt that much anymore. It's not a suffering anymore. It's just like the cats when they fight and they hiss at each other. There is no idea that, oh, right now my light is dim because I'm hissing at my brother or the kitties there. No, it's just what's happening in the moment, and the next moment is fresh and new.
Anything that comes up is just meant to come up. That's like it's just
Comes up to be seen.
coming up. Yeah, to be
Comes up to
to
be
the surface. Yeah.
And so, what are you watching that from?
Yeah, from
So, if you see there's something blocking, that, you know, you're seeing that from that presence that you are.
the awareness.
Yeah. So you just go, there it is.
Yeah, there it is.
There
That's,
it is.
because
Oh, well,
sometimes you feel these
there
old
it is.
patterns bubble up.
That's
and
right.
it's sort of,
But don't get into the story how it's you know, this, that, and the other,
Yeah.
because then that's just, you know, that's just dissipating energy. You know, it's just dissipating energy. So, yeah, but yeah, because it's just another form of
Dog from
story. I missed that. Sorry.
it's his favourite line, I think.
Dog's vomit. That's right. That's what it is. Dog's vomit. Yeah.
You're gonna eat it or not?
Yeah.
That's the only question.
Yeah.
It is
That's
the-
right.
Yeah.
You can eat it or not, or just say there it is. There's that dog's vomit.
I think, like Kat said, when you see it without the resistance of it, then it's seen and it
Dissipates.
dissipates,
That's
because it's
right.
just a pattern, shape, and form coming
That's
up into awareness.
That's right. So saying, you know, some little thing, whatever works for you, there it is. And just moving on. It's just, it's no big deal. Don't get caught up in the
Yeah.
circle.
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. It's much more beautiful than dog's vomit, actually. It's not that dark. I think it's not on that level. Anyway.
Interesting pointer. Yeah.
It's a good anchor, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of doesn't encourage you to stay in the mind.
No. You're repelled. Absolutely
Yeah.
repelled. Yeah. And the great thing is truth eats away the lie. There's nothing you have to do. You know. Nothing. It just, you'll notice, you know, or you won't notice. Oh dear. Words, they're so inadequate, aren't they?
Yes.
All they can do is show us who we're not, or what's not. That's why Richard's always having hysterics. Because he knows what he's not.
That is an absolute winner though, the dog's vomit thing, because it's equal in its revolt, to the intensity, because the story and the nervous system physical response can be very strong in certain situations, and so to actually have a very strong thing that repels from it, because the mind is not up to it really without some kind of really strong, it has to be something else.
Yes, beautiful pointer, beautiful trick.
Is that a question?
Didn't you get it?
Laughing Buddha, eh?
We say they're very strong, they've got no power at all.
Yeah, true.
It's only the energy of belief that's gone into them that makes them seem very strong.
Physical, like there's one particular thing that can, this last week that really triggered me, something with my daughter, and the physical sensation in my nervous system was just, and I could have labelled it, and I can have about 2 or 3 different labels, but it was so strong to actually like stay out of acting it out or putting words to it and so on was really felt to my mind hard to do.
See, it's in the mind, the mind going into that thing must stirred the body up to come to emotion, you see.
Yeah.
But the thing itself has got no energy or belief's gone into it, that's all. And that word focuses wherever it's going, bang. The anger, the fear.
It's true, it's like the words are so fast, the story is like, feels like it's one and the same, but it's not. Even, is it true though to create that in the nervous system required a story in the first place? Yeah. Otherwise, how could anything be lodged in the nervous system unless it had a story to kind of bind it in there?
Well, if it's been there before, it's probably worn a groove that is easily to jump into. You know, this one's fear, this one's thing. The whole mental groove that's seemingly formed through repetition.
Yes.
Mm.
Thought, feeling, and emotion are one.
And there is a possibility of emotion or feeling arising without the story, like when we look at the newborn baby or when we look at people with strong dopamine receptor deficiencies or other diseases. But usually when you are in the natural state and then something launches up crazily, there would be a subtle story behind it. Or even if something launches, the story comes and interprets it. And that's already...
That's usually the way, I mean, in theory now with neuroscience, you can see the nervous system reacts and then the story is created to match the sensation in the nervous system.
Yeah.
That's why I was thinking, well, what creates that sensation in the nervous system must have been a prior story or something.
Yeah, and it
Thought,
is...
feeling, and emotion are one.
Yeah.
It's very subtle. Sometimes it can be a smell in the air that triggers some past memories and some past associations, and it can, it's very complex because the body is responding to the environment, and it has 6 different senses through which it filters information that are conscious, and many more which are not.
Trying to stay safe and survive. Perform.
I can have an emotion in the body without the thought first, though. Like it's an emotion, and then the thought tries to interpret what's going on emotionally.
Yes, when you see a baby, it's just a love that wells up. There's no thought associated.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's still responding with different emotions and feelings.
Yes.
So it works both ways. They are really the same thing. Because if you think of actors that want to play out a drama, they do have to think themselves to it.
Yeah, it's called the method.
Mm.
You've got to think of the character, where that character is, what place and time it's in, what the story is. Yeah, I've done method acting, so yeah, it's called the method. Yeah. And that's what we do every day when we're stuck in the story.
Yeah.
We're living in the past, creating a place and time, and projecting into the future. So
Everyone's method acting.
everyone's method acting. Yeah, absolutely.
And we're all Academy Award winners.
Yeah, most of people doesn't even question the main character in the play. They take it for granted. Yes, I am the person. That's what's happening to me. That's what have happened in the past. That's my patterns. That's how my family abused me or whatever.
And sometimes, like Mukti was saying, and Bob was saying, it's a deeply ingrained pattern that's done a groove in you. And there might not actually be a conscious thought at that time. It's compounded.
Yeah.
That's why there's therapists.
Or it's a pre-verbal, like an emotional experience that's prior to having words to describe it, language to describe it. So it's kind of held without a story, but still in the body it rises.
Yeah.
As a feeling of shame or a feeling of whatever.
A sensation.
A sensation.
Which we label.
Which we then now we've got language, then we add the language to it too. Yeah, just to make sure we do our method acting really well.
But any true actor is able to see it as a character.
Oh yeah.
So,
And those of us that know who we really are can see that too.
and don't feel shame for the character.
No,
Just
no,
that's
that's right.
that character,
That's right.
and to really know it in its fullness.
That's right, exactly.
And you have empathy for the character
Yeah,
sometimes. I
totally.
feel empathy for the
Yeah,
character.
totally.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing the more I don't identify, the more love I have
Yeah,
for
Yeah, absolutely.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
including Taz,
Yeah, well,
the actor Taz.
well,
Starting
yeah,
from you.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
there's more
And
capacity.
for others, who,
Mm.
you know, for others, yeah.
Like you can see the innocence of everything and everyone. Like nobody has chosen to be this way, chosen to have that past, that conditioning, that patterns. And this
often
is
they don't even notice it's a lie.
yeah. And then that's where the real, because the whole new age is all about self-love. But who is there to love who? That's a split. That's the duality. But once you realize you that loving awareness, and then that actor is showing up in the screen, you include that self-love, the love, the reflection of yourself in every form. So that's where the self-love is natural. It's not really a split anymore. It's just natural inclusion of the reflection, because every form is a reflection of emptiness.
That's right.
It's ironic. Self-love comes from getting rid of the self.
Yes.
Knowing who you're not is left with love. Yeah.
Yes.
Society really loves stories. I mean, there are all sorts of book awards, and it's really fixated on them.
What's the essence of the stories, though, Richard? What's the essence? They're all a tale of loss and love,
They're all
ultimately.
dogs.
Well, yes. Yes.
Yes, the Dog Vomit Appreciation Society.
It's true though, it is the search in those love stories, even though it's identified and projected onto another person, it's that person, the viewer, thirst for seeing some kind of deep love or self, something, a touch, some kind of light.
But ultimately, the whole idea of love is about losing yourself, because whatever you love, be it a nice sunset, or be it your spouse or your child, or someone idealized, like your fantasy projected out there, and you are so totally in love, you're so bowing down that there is no you, it's just the adoration for the object. So the love is kind of giving you a little bit of a break from the selfishness, self-centeredness, self-will. You want to just do anything and everything for the object, be it God or be it a child, whatever it is. So that's why it's so glorified, because it's a temporary suspension of the self-centeredness.
The selfing, yeah.
It's the path of bhakti as well, except it's projected onto a person, isn't it?
Yes.
What I'm finding more and more, Bob, is that the more awareness of the presence there seems to be, or the less identification of what I'm not, and the more ease and kind of curiosity that I'm noticing into that, the more disidentifying with the characters, there seems to be something else really truer emerging in me, that just more love of whatever this wants and how it wants it. And that preference is okay. It doesn't mean that I'm dualistic.
No, you
That-
don't need the story.
You're either
Yeah.
attracted or repelled.
Well, yes, it's as simple as that.
It is.
But to get to that
Yes,
is
yeah.
really the struggle. To really just own who you are, who you always were, and who you'll always be. So, yeah.
You want to get yourself out of the road, doesn't it? The less clouds there are in the sky, the more brighter the sun shines and more clarity there is. It's the same happening, isn't it? More, less thoughts of the crowd in your head and all the natural joyousness of being naturally emerges.
Every morning I sit. Every morning I just sort of sit and just breathe like it's an effort. But even in that, there's a noticing, well, there's no effort. There's just there's the natural functioning.
Exactly.
It's just happening.
Yeah.
Then there's more just letting go. It's just, and that's just spontaneously happening. Just disregard of what isn't true, and then there's just this thing that's just living and breathing, all by itself. All by itself, doesn't need anything.
As in nature.
Yeah, it's quite miraculous.
It is. Effortless living.
Good on you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Beautifully said.
So simple and they're so vastly overlooked.
Totally overlooked. Well, because of the shame that is thrust on us, or the story that we're supposed to believe doesn't give any space for that to breathe. So I notice all the clenching in my jaw and my chest that's somehow now softening because I don't believe with what I thought or what I've been told not to do or what to do. There's just, but this is all right. But the more I'm letting go, the more I'm seeing the clenching for what it was, and just how horrible that is to do that to any being. It's you wouldn't. I mean, the way it's like treating an animal badly. It's awful.
If not for that, you couldn't wake up
I
from
was
it.
going to say it's necessary.
You wouldn't appreciate the freedom if you hadn't been experiencing bondage.
Well, this is why I suppose there was a recognition of, or a curiosity into the word grace last time here. What makes that happen? That just emerged. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, say thank you.
Yeah, that I do say.
It's a free gift. Grace.
Yeah.
That's
I
nice.
read in a book the other day, something about it being a free gift. I don't know why I thought of that.
That's
And the cognising of your own beingness is a free gift. Every moment.
I mean, those moments I've sat with you, Bob, here one-on-one, where there's just been this panic in my system, and Bob's just shrugging his shoulders, going, "Oh, I'm just."
What a bit.
I'm like, "How dare you? Like, I'm freaking out here." But it's like the mirror shining back at me is it's all right.
Yeah.
And so there's just been this, really, even in this last short period, a real working back and beyond all the panic that's in the system, just a bit of ease. So that's a nice thing.
Yeah, so good.
So it happens by itself. Recognition of it.
Your presence and holding space and shining the mirror helps a little bit too. Yeah, I can't recommend one-on-one more than, oh my gosh, that's a life changer, game changer. And it's still here, it's still available, it's easy. It's easy through Skype.
He's
Or
even better if you bring him a decaf coffee.
you can't do it through Skype, but yes, bring him a decaf coffee with plant milk. Almond or whatever.
Yeah, good. You enjoy the coffee that was taken in joy. Brings about.
Well, I think you've inaugurated a new school of enlightenment, the The dog's vomit school.
It's a good point though. When you're in that state, the body's just completely relaxed, isn't it? It's like there's not tension. It's just
Effortless.
the body's given away the pointers that it's in the right space. I know I'm using the word body, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's a good description. Yeah, you can
In a relaxed
you can see
state.
no resistance. That's a good sign.
At the same time, it's also good to see. I mean, it's neither good nor bad in a way because, like I noticed this week, waking up in a few mornings, my hand was sort of partly clenched. And no story, but I know that has a sensation that goes with it. I know that I could add a story, or that it once upon a time maybe had a story over and over. And so I've been just sitting and there's a sensation, and just fully seeing that's like an opening, it's like an invitation, just in that, totally being with it, it just opens out into this absolute, the place you're speaking of, the place of where there's just nothing really happening, and it's just allowing whatever that is, seems to, I don't know whether it's coming or going or whatever it's doing, but it invites me to bring attention to something
Yes.
without a story, and then in that attention, that presence, whatever shifts or does whatever it does.
Put the attention on it, you're seeing right into it.
Yeah, and it almost becomes mesmerising. Like I have this sensation of like some inner attention becomes totally absorbed in it, and in that absorption becomes complete absorption. So I don't. It's like anything, that the resistance or the whatever is.
Every moment is invitation.
Yeah.
Whatever shows up, whether it's complete relaxation or whether it's sensation or irritability, resistance.
Yeah.
Everything can be just totally included.
Everything's an opportunity to watch. Every moment's an opportunity to watch.
Yeah. If resistance show up, but you don't have resistance towards it, it's included. It's okay. How are you guys going? Rondina, Simon? Anything's happening that could inspire others or could be resolved? Challenges? Insights?
Like Taz was saying, it's more just being, and it's bringing moments of deep joy and bliss and relaxation. And it's just a letting go. I think that's all it is letting go and letting go. And I do it at night sometimes or in the mornings, and it's almost like you don't can't accept you can get that without it. It's just a feeling of deep joy, just joy. You dropping out of the mind.
Coming back home.
And it's
Home
simple.
you never left.
It's not easy, but it is simple.
Yes. That's a good way to say. Not easy, but simple.
Have you been going? I'm sorry. Have you been going solo?
Well, there's no need, but that's good.
Yeah.
How are they going?
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
yeah, I like my yoga teacher used to say, just getting back to the nervous system, he, he was quite a special man. He said the body, who's the boss of the body, who's the controller of the body, and it's the mind. He used to say the mind is the boss of the body. Who's the boss of the mind? And he said breath. The breath is the boss of the mind. And then so pranayama, you do breath exercise, all that sort of stuff. And then he said, who is the boss of the breath? And it was just ironic that the answer was the nervous system. And all those things are conditioned. They can be conditioned, preferenced through our, whatever we've been imprinted with, or what the word, it's samskaras, what the Indians used to call imprints, and which lead to all that suffering and conditioning, which don't exist. So it's like, but it's a beautiful story,
It's a beautiful
The
story.
body, the mind's the boss of the body, the breath is the boss of the mind,
And the body is the boss of the
they're all minds, they're all minds,
Yes.
but it's all bullshit, but it's all a story, but it's just a wonderful way of, you wake up in the morning and this hand's got this, feeling of, through the nervous system, so it's like, you walk down the street, the nervous system's on defense because, or you walk in, you see a beautiful girl, the system, so whatever, it's all,
Something happens.
it's all like this conditioning, and when you let go of it, it's just like, it's, what Tass was referring to, that easement of the breath and an effortless effort, whereas we're being always efforting, and to find the answer through the mind is an effort. It's a fucking effort, and it just totally is pointless. And I'm just like now. It's just so I can't even talk about it really. It's effortless effort. The yogis used to talk about effortless effort, and I never really understood it till I met Bob. So yeah, letting go, let it happen.
Who's the boss of the nervous system?
Wow, that's it.
Life itself.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Right.
it's just happening.
And what is the boss of life? Life is the one essence. Life is light, energy. And who was it? Christ or somebody said, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. So let your light so shine before men, they may see your good works and glorify the Father, that light essence that you are in you.
It's also interesting in the nervous system thing is also the recognition now of how our nervous systems, there is no my nervous system because it's all interconnected.
Yes.
There is, again, there's no individual experience really like this. Yeah. And that, stop there.
Yeah, as Bob says, it's all light, it's all energy just flowing, body's flowing, mind is flowing, nervous system is flowing, breath is flowing, and you've got no control of it. But with what we did.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And mind your that one.
You know what thought did?
With what we did.
Something else I'm finding is that the more this is the recognition of how precious this is, I can see more the way it's being compromised in certain relationships, in certain patterns, and there's just a no-go there zone. It just, there's a repulsion from it. I just can't, there's no, this is so precious, this thing that's just there, and it's so subtle and so sincere and quiet, and I love it. That put it anywhere where it gets traumatized again is not possible.
Yeah. Don't have to go there.
Yeah, don't go
Don't have
there.
to go there.
It's a clear repelling sometimes, isn't it? It's like that energetically. I'm just,
Yeah.
no,
That's right. That's
Might
what
move
Bob
over
used
here.
to say
Like
to me
cats.
in the early days. You're either attracted or repelled, and I didn't really understand what that meant. But I do now.
It's so true. You don't have to go there.
Yeah, you don't have to.
You don't have the identity wanting or willing to go there or thinking that it leads to more problem.
But watching the action figure, it's quite interesting watching the action. You know, watching the action figure, how it's attracted or repelled to things. Just watching it, you know, it's interesting.
I think these Sunday sessions should be called Laugh In with Bob.
What is it?
Laugh In with Bob.
Why not?
Laughing's a good medicine.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
It's a real exorcism.
For the nervous system.
I remember that show. It was called Laughing.
Laughing
Laughing,
was
yeah.
great. Yeah, I loved it. It was a great show.
But they were missing Bob, that's the thing. They didn't have Bob with them.
Or we can call him Bob the Builder.
Bob the Destroyer.
Oh, the destroyer.
Bob the
Of the
Destroyer.
deconstructor.
And that other word was Bob's down. We won't go any further than that.
Okay.
Is that the cat out there? Oh no, it's a person.
Yeah, some
Adrian.
Adrian.
Oh.
I so appreciate, it's like a tuning fork, you know, that there is a, you know, whether it's grace or a gift or however, there's for me, a sense of there being, you know, you're so in this place that there's a resonance and a recognition of that within oneself.
Tuning fork's a good one because
Yeah,
you take the resonation in that tuning fork, you tune the other instruments.
yeah, yeah. Without doing anything. Yeah.
This is a question of fork you.
Fork. Evil. Look how happy you made Bob.
He's happiness itself.
Yeah.
You are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone wants to go down the road? I'm going down the road.
Yeah.